SEO demands constant adaptation. Best practices change overnight, algorithms evolve without warning, tools multiply by the day. How can listening skills make you a better SEO professional? According to Moz's State of Search in 2024, 68% of SEO professionals identified effective communication with clients and stakeholders as their most significant challenge, outranking even technical implementation difficulties. This highlights the critical gap between technical expertise and the effective implementation. The problem affects everyone in search. Technical skills alone won't drive results. Communication barriers block implementation. So how can you bridge this gap and improve your SEO outcomes? This is the Voice of Search podcast. My name's Tyson, and joining us today is Donna Donahue, SEO manager at Untitled Scientific. Untitled Scientific is one of the leaders in lab tools equipment, and they have a strong emphasis on education and lab research. Donna, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a while since we chatted and we had you on, so welcome back.
I think it's been 2 years.
It's crazy how fast to be honest, I'm not even sure how long we've been having this podcast.
Well, I think that I was in the podcast for the first time when I had just started at Antilia. And
Nice.
I had come to talk about, because I had come from local SEO into e-commerce. And I talked about big corporate versus small local businesses, which are worlds
Excellent.
apart.
Which and now you're in some regards, there's still some like e-com elements in your work, but obviously in kind of, quite the niche sector. But today we want to be talking about, listening and elements of stakeholder management. And I feel like it doesn't matter what part of SEO that you're in, whether it's the enterprise Fortune 500 or a startup, like the ability for SEOs to collaborate with other teams, whether it's the engineering department, whether it's content, it's like we need that buy-in and that involvement of other departments to be successful. And so I think like
Absolutely.
the topic that we're having today is like it's very critical across the board. So maybe to set the stage for the listeners, like how do you view this as one of the skill sets in an SEO's toolkit?
That's an interesting question, because I think that listening is something that escapes all of us, right? We're so focused on our day to day and our lane that we forget what other people are focusing on or what they're doing, and that, I'm not the only one I'm not the only one doing what I do. So I think a good example would be the relationship between the dev team and SEO, for example. So I know, and I think any SEO can appreciate this, that there's always some friction between SEO and dev. And we say, well, why can't you just do what we want to do? And the dev comes back with, why are you always breaking our stuff? If we didn't have to put all of your things in our site, it would run faster. And we're saying, but it doesn't matter. And so I think we get caught up in our own lane. So I think that I have learned by just really kind of understanding the workload, especially at Antilia, the very large workload that our developers have to deal with. There are so many moving parts to the Cole Palmer website that I can't even begin to imagine, how busy they are in an 8 to 10 hour day that they're working. And I think consequently, they at the same time may not understand what fills my 8 hours a day, which is mostly research and looking for things to bring to them to fix so that we can get optimal search results. Um, and at the same time, trying to convey that to the team of why this is important. So I've started changing my language with my dev team and some other stakeholders in the company. And rather than just saying, why won't you do this? I've started to ask, what would be the potential risk? Or here's a problem. Not problem. I'm trying to eliminate that word from my vocabulary. Here's a challenge. How can we work together to resolve it? Rather than just saying, just do what I tell you to do because it needs to be done because Google says so. And I remember a number of years ago, I said that to a developer and they said, well, I don't think Google owns the internet. And I'm like, but Google does own the internet. So, and I feel like since I've changed my language, I feel like that working relationship is a lot more solid. So I had to listen to their frustration because they say, don't just tell us something. You can't just say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You need to tell us what's wrong, how you found it, and a solution. And so now I never submit anything in a ticket and expect them to figure out why it's not working. I try to come up with solutions if it's in my purview, if it's within my skill set. There are some things that I don't write code. I do write code. I don't write heavy code. So, I can't tell you if something's broken. I don't know why sometimes in the code, unless it's JSON. If it's JSON, I know why it's broken. So, then I've been pretty successful with that here in the last, I would say maybe year and a half, close to 2 years.
Yeah, it's like that ability to take a step back and understand the why. And it feels like a lot of times we get so caught up in our day to day, what we're doing, what the things we need to do, that we want those kind of quick exits rather than understanding, hey, someone on the other side, like you said, may want to know why this is important, why they should prioritize it, why they should do that instead of something else. And so I think like that reflection point is a really critical element for a lot of SEOs out there. And it's really, in some ways, it's not that far off than the skill set that we're already doing, because in a lot of ways, we're having to listen to the user for what questions they're asking, what things they're doing. And so I don't feel like this is like a significant stretch from like some of the fundamentals that we're already doing as SEOs.
Right. I think it's important to, know it and other SEOs know it. But I think we get caught in the trap of assuming that because we know it, everybody knows it. And so that's where we have to come in and be educators. They don't understand the why unless we tell them the why. And I know early on in my career, that was a big downfall of mine. It's like, I understand why. I'm just telling you to do it. I need it done. And I think it was because I didn't know how to explain the whys. I just knew how to do it. So you're right. It's like listening back and forth, right? Communication, novel concept.
And looking back, like, do you remember what that tipping point was in your career that you kind of had this mental shift? Like, was it something that you felt slowly over time, you kind of just naturally started doing more? Or was there kind of like that aha moment in your career that it really kind of clicked with you and then everything else fell in place?
I don't think that there was an aha moment. unless you count the aha being that I really got tired of what I was saying falling on deaf ears and not being able to get anything accomplished. So um, and I have to say, our director was very instrumental in helping me to kind of, I don't know, kind of build those relationships. And he said, you know, in our arena, we are not only practitioners, but um, we are also communicators, and so we're educators. So we always come at things with the lens of curiosity rather than
Mm.
demanding. And so I try to approach everything now from that lens of curiosity rather than demanding. So I wouldn't say that there was an aha moment, but I will say that once I changed the way that I did things, I then had the aha moment. It was like, because then things started moving. I was able to get my tickets put into a priority queue instead of it just going to the circular file. And so therefore, um, you know, good for the company, good for me, is we've started to see, you know, huge gains. And so it was just a matter of changing my perspective. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can. It just takes a little bit longer.
Totally, totally. And I mean, it sounds like from that description that it was, you know, you got that positive reinforcement, and so you made the switch. Then you saw the reaction from it, and then it's like you're further encouraged and motivated to then lean into it farther. And I think that's something that's like it does tend to, I think, come a little bit more natural as people have been in the industry for a little bit longer. And I think typically people that are earlier in their careers, that seems to be more of a challenge, is that ability to work with such variety of stakeholders and then to be able to understand what each of them is wanting. And I think it oftentimes, again, you just have to take that step back and kind of there's just a human element, even though we are in a very analytical industry and field.
I think too, if I could give anybody like one, it's somebody you mentioned, people just entering into the field. It took me a lot of years to figure this out, but you have to swallow your pride. Until you swallow your pride, you cannot be an effective listener. Um, I, I I lied. There was an aha moment for me. Early on, I used to be very annoyed at the people who were like, I'm too good to help you.
Mm.
And, you know, figure it out on your own. It's like the pure arrogance of some people in our field. And it was very annoying to me. And because I was like, I'm just trying to learn like the rest of you. We all started somewhere and somebody had to have helped you. You didn't just wake up and know how to do this, right? You went to people, you joined focus groups, discussion groups, you read a lot. And I was very annoyed by people like that. And then one day I caught myself being that person. And I didn't say that other than that one moment because that was like, I just became the people I don't like. And I can't, my moral will not let me do that. So that was an aha moment for me for sure. Like I did not want to be
And
that guy.
how far into your career were you when that happened?
Oh, I would say a good 8 years.
Okay. So
But I
that's
had never treated anybody like that. I was still, it took me really about that long to really feel like I was not an imposter
mm,
because of the people, the circles that I ran in are, big agency owners. And these are people who I consider friends of mine. But I never felt like I was even at their level at all. So I just tried to learn everything I could from them. So I just spent the first 8 years of my career feeling imposter syndrome. And then one day I was like, hey, I do know this stuff. And I did it without asking anybody, and I was right. So about 8 years, about 8 years.
nice. Nice. And I think that's like a funny element of our industry is we've all fallen into this from one direction or another. And so we've all gone through those stages and a lot of it is self-learning and thankfully like we have an industry that's very open and people share a lot of information. And also, you have the people that are willing to grant that time. And I think that's, at least for me, like that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the industry is that, and you can always find exceptions to this, but I feel like largely there is this kind of understanding that we've all fallen into it from one place or another, and we're all going to be at different stages. And it doesn't feel quite as cutthroat as some other kind of fields or disciplines.
I've been very fortunate, Tyson. I've got some people in the industry that, like I said, I do consider friends, who are very well respected in our community. And they never hesitate when I drop them a line and say, hey, I don't want you to answer this for me, but am I on the right path? And they've never acted like I was a burden to them, never acted like, why don't you already know this? So why are you bothering me? I'm busy too. No, these people will take time out of their day, even if it's 5 minutes, or they'll say, "Hey, catch me at this time. I'd love to talk that over with you." And so I've been very, very lucky, very blessed to find myself in the right circles of people.
Well, you hit on a important component though, is I feel like in part of, and maybe it's not exactly like listening, but in this collaboration or like cross-functional kind of work, there is sometimes that element of I've taken this as far as I can. And if I see someone that I know has genuinely put out all that effort, I feel that much more motivated to step in and help. And if someone immediately comes and it kind of shows that they are not willing to put out the effort, it kind of takes away a little bit. And I think that's like a really good piece of advice, that you hit on is, especially if you're up and coming, like carry something as far as you can. It's okay to not bring it to 100%, but give it your all. And I think the person on the other side is oftentimes going to recognize that and be more apt to kind of meet you there than if you just right off the bat be like, oh, yeah, I can't do this and ask for help. It's like that to me has like a really significant component.
100%.
Now, throughout your career, have you felt like there's easier departments or teams that have come more naturally for you to work with, or have you found yourself struggling with one team for some reason, whether it's like, just how you're wired or given like the function of their discipline?
I think that I get along with most teams. I think probably the teams that I probably mesh with the most, and it's probably because I work with them the closest, is our marketing team, who is responsible for a lot of the writing. And because I can do a fair bit of writing myself, I understand their struggle. And I really, with those kinds of teams, when it comes to SEO, I really go into educator mode. I listen to what they don't understand. So we go back to listening. I listen to what they don't understand. And if I don't have an answer for them right away, because I'm not a big one for rattling off something that nobody understands just to get people out of my way. I go back and I find something that is going to be an easy way for me to show them. And I love to empower people to help themselves. Because I'm one person, right? So the more I educate people, the better we work together. And content writers really don't understand a lot of times why you're bleeding all over their work. Right. And so I have to be very sensitive to that. And it's like, because writers are artists, right? And you're not going to go to the Louvre and say, yeah, that Mona Lisa is a piece of garbage. You just don't want to be that person. So you have to understand each person that you're working with. Some people are very thankful for the knowledge and they get excited about it, because then they make it a challenge to try to have me not correct anything at all. And I love that. It's more time for me to do what's important is for me strategy, and not just constantly optimizing written words that people have already done. And then there are other people that get their feelings hurt, and I'm not anywhere that I'm at now, but I'm just talking over my career. We get married to our work, right? We're proud of what we do. And so there are some people who's like, well, I'm not changing it. And then it's like, well, okay, tell me why. That is one thing I had to listen to. It's like, tell me why, help me, convince me why you shouldn't change it. And then I'll show you the data that tells you why you should. And then, but I haven't run across that many people. That's the exception, not the rule. So I think that that's the teams that I work closest with: content writers and general marketers. And I don't mean general in that they're jack of all trades, but I mean, you've got your traditional marketing and then you've got digital marketing. So it's the team that is our counterparts, but on the traditional marketing side, that would be responsible for trade shows, and they've stepped in as content writers and things like that too. So I love our marketing team. They're great. I love everybody. I mean, really, I think that I work with a really great group of people. So
Now, on that last piece, you hit on kind of like the traditional marketers, and you used the trade show people. Now, I feel like from that, you probably have a lot, even selfishly speaking, to gain, because throughout those events, that direct contact, they're getting that firsthand experience with the consumer, with the user, with the target essentially that we're going after. And so it feels like from this, there's probably a lot to gain also from those teams that then you can take in and craft into your strategy, into your prioritization, or into your efforts as like an SEO.
yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I've got some really good examples of that. One of our lovely lady who's responsible for our fluid handling products. And I said, hey, you got a few moments that we can talk about some of these blogs that you've been sending my way? And she said, sure. I said, and so we got on a call and I said, I just want to understand where the drive is coming for these blogs that you're sending, because they're they're partially in my strategy, but they're not really on my radar. And she said, oh, well, they come from the salespeople and they come from these surveys that we send out, the voice of the customer. And so in turn, they're listening to what the customers are saying are their pain points. And so they're responding with a need for something to put out on the web. And then I hear that, and it was very helpful for me to have that conversation because of course, all I have is my data, right? I'm not a scientist. I just have my data. It's like, here's our weaknesses, here's our weaknesses, here's our weaknesses. Here's where we need content, here's opportunity, and let's do this. And it may not be what our customers are looking for at all. So it's helpful to have those conversations. It's like, where is this coming from? And then I've said, oh, well, let's just move this content that you're writing and I'll move out some of my stuff in my master content calendar and we'll prioritize your stuff because that's what our customers are asking for. So, and then same thing with the trade shows. They go and they hear what people are needing. They come to me and they say, do we have content on our site that backs this up? And the answer is either yes or no, or is it good content or is it bad content? And so we have to go and look at it and say, well, no, we're lacking that content. And unless I have that communication with those teams, I really won't know. I'll just be putting out a lot of stuff that people are writing about and stuff that people aren't looking for. And therefore what happens, or our organic search goes down. So it's been an eye-opening thing for me.
Interesting. And maybe just jumping back like a little bit, is you hit on the piece of like education. And within this theme of like listening, I think knowing where that other audience's starting point is then allows you to craft, whether it's analogies, comparisons, like typically when you're learning, you need to pair something new with something familiar, and then you're building on top of that. But you have to kind of start with that fundamental piece. And within kind of like the toolkits of SEOs, I feel like that's such a fundamental piece because it's getting back to kind of what you were saying earlier of like, well, it's the why, it's describing it. You're having to bring them along this journey with you. And if you don't know where they're at, then how would you know where or how to talk with them? Like, have you found any other kind of tricks or tips that you'd have for the listeners on how to effectively educate others outside of SEO?
I think providing them with a pathway to success. So it's one thing to give them a topic that they need to write about because we're lacking content in this area. Like fluid handling is it's a fairly new product for us. And it's one thing for me to say, hey, we need to write an article about this. And then I don't get anything. And I had to figure out why am I not getting anything? It's because they don't know what I'm asking them for. They just assume that I just assume that if I tell them to write about this topic, that they're going to know how to write about it. Well, that was wrong on my part because they're marketers. They are more knowledgeable than I am about their products for sure. But in uncovering that they really just didn't know what I was asking for, I developed a way to, rather than backwards go through their content and look for keywords. I created a very succinct content brief that is that everybody has found very helpful, and it breaks down potential headings. Even if they change up the heading, they know which keywords need to go in, what the focus keyword is for that heading. I give them suggestions of things to write about in the blocks of content. I provide all the keywords up front. And then even in the world of AI, of course, in AI overviews, I have started to include in my content briefs tips to appear in AI overviews, how we should structure these pieces of content, either a how-to, and then of course I'll submit a FAQ schema and things like that. But once I did that, I started getting probably more content than I could keep up with to publish. So just providing them that pathway to success. And so they feel good about it. I feel good about it because I'm not having to continually remind people that we don't have enough fresh content on our site, because now I'm getting that fresh content on a regular basis. And it was just providing them a very simple tool that they could use and check off the boxes. Okay, so if I start with this header and then I fill in the blanks after each header, and then I even give them bullet points, try this is what you need to talk about in this topic. And, they don't, and I always tell them, this is not a black and white thing. This is a suggestion, but make sure that you use these components. How you do it, I don't care. I'm not the writer. Just make sure that you use these, because that's what people are looking for. And don't use it 500 times, please and thank you.
That's great advice. But I assume when you first went into that probably took more effort, more time. But then in the long run, it definitely, I would assume, saved quite a bit of time, because now you have the floodgates are open on this content coming towards you.
Oh, for sure. And I did spend a lot of time in the front end developing a system. And now when they say, they come to me with a topic, they say, can you provide me a content brief for this topic? And it's just like clockwork now. I built an entire master set of keywords, and set up I connected ChatGPT to SEMrush's API. And so I'm able to constantly get fresh data from my ChatGPT when I need something new, and to make sure, because one day one type of balance might be the hot thing, and then 2 months from now another burners and hot plates might be the big topic. So it's just like constantly moving.
Fair.
So yes, lots of work on the front end, but now it's like it's so nice. It's like like I said, when we started the conversation, I said I really love to be proactive and not reactive, and so this helped me help them be proactive rather than reactive.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I think it's such great advice kind of for the listeners out there. And with that, it's going to bring us to our lightning round. So this is our shorter form. I'm going to throw a series of questions at you. And these are going to be, a little more bite size, but they're going to have a theme to them. And so the first one I'm going to throw at you is going to be buy or sell. Are you buying or selling that page speed will be less important in the age of AI search?
I'm going to do neither. I'm going to take out a loan. I'm not going to buy or sell. I'm going to hold on to it. Just like, don't gamble money that you can't afford to lose. Because I think that page load speed is always going to be important. But I think that one thing that will never go away is the fact that content is king. So, and I think page load speed is going to be important because, of course, the AI scrapers have to go and find the content. And if they're having a hard time getting through your site because it serves up a bunch of 505s and 404s and, or not 505s, 503s and things like that. I think that is going to be important, but that's why I'm going to hold off for right now. Right now, page load is probably still more important, but we'll wait and see what happens in the future. Because I don't know where this world of AI is going to take us. And it's not going away, I can tell you that much. So either put up or shut up, I guess.
I like the creativity on it, going off script with the loan. And for me, it's an interesting question too, because it's like, end of the day, user experience, page speed's important. Even if you're getting less users to your site, like that experience of once they get there is going to be super critical. We've seen all the studies of how page speed can impact conversion rates. But then you can kind of go out on that limb from a thought experience as far as, well, with ChatGPT, if it's just extracting and training from your content, it doesn't really rely on that speed. But then in which you also play into how much does that impact the crawlers that would be addressing it.
I think, though, that it's just really hard to keep up with Google's criteria about page load speed, because a lot of their stuff a lot of what slows our site down are Google's properties. So when I go through like a Lighthouse report for a quick down and dirty, it's like this page is like not converting. And it's spot on for on-page content. It's like, well, there's got to be something wrong with it technically. So you go and look at, page load speed and go into Search Console. And then it's like, it's Google's tags that are slowing it down. It's like remove third-party tags. And it's like Google Ads, Google Tag Manager, GA4. And it's like, well, I can't get rid of those because I have to have them. Yet that's what's causing the page to slow down. And of course, there's some unused JavaScript and stuff like that, and you can fix that. So it is important. I would just say that the best technical website in the entire world is not going to overcome bad content. So you can have good. You can tell I'm an on-page person.
No worries.
I really excel at on-page SEO, but it's like if you have bad content, your page can load at 98% performance, and it's not going to get found. So who cares? Who cares if your page is loading up like lightning fast? Nobody's looking for it.
Absolutely. Next one, trend or trash. Is optimizing content specifically for AIO a trend or trash?
I'm going to say it's a trend.
All right.
I'm going to say snippets are the new zero-click playground. So if you are paying attention at all, and I know that you are because I see you active on LinkedIn, everybody's talking about it. It's like, oh my God, these AI overviews are killing me. And we're not special. I have this is funny. For my May report, I had fewer sessions, but I had an 8% increase in revenue. But in the AI overviews, when I was looking in SEMrush, we're killing it in the AI overviews. which means we're offering good informational content. But so we're appearing in those, but it is going to be a trend because now we have to figure out how are we going to optimize for that, because I don't know how recently Google has, or that how Google, I assume it's Google, for the AI overviews, they started putting links right in those results. It didn't used to have links in those results, and now it does. So how to make the content engaging enough so that people get the answer that they want, but at the same time encourage them to click through in those links that are within those AI overviews. So I think that that's a mystery to all of us. So that's what I'm going to say. It's trending because, like I said earlier, AI is not going away. We just have to learn how to adapt to it. So I'm going to go with it's trending. I'm a big proponent of
Absolutely.
AI. I'm one of the people who has embraced it. However, I hate those AI overviews. Even as
Yeah,
even
the
as a
catch 22.
searcher, yeah, even as a searcher, not just an SEO, it's like I don't want that. It's like I didn't ask you for that. But then sometimes I do, like when I'm doing comparisons, it's like because I have this side business, and sometimes I want to know where to get the best priced product for my website, and I want to make sure it's American made. And so I'll say, help me find, or I have these two products, compare them side by side and tell me which one's American made. And it's great for that. But like the weather, I don't need that AI overview. I want to go to the weatherchannel.com because maybe I want to look at what everywhere else in the country is looking like. So it's a catch-22 for sure.
Fair enough.
I
Next
really hate
one.
them as an SEO.
And next one. What's the word? Give me one word that describes the current state of EEAT in AI search.
Messy. I think that Google can't make up its mind. And I don't know if I'm alone in this thought, but I feel like Google has broken its algorithm so bad beyond repair that even it doesn't know what is expertise or authority anymore. It's critical, but the signals are vague,
Mm,
you know. So, and for my industry, it's kind of really critical because we're considered a quasi your money or your life site. So because we're not just strictly AI, we're not just strictly e-commerce. We deal with the pharmaceutical industries and lab research and stuff like that. So we have to make sure that any of the content that we put out is definitely from an authoritative perspective. That's why we have scientists overlook all of our, before anything goes on to the web, a scientist has had a purview into it. And so it's just really kind of messy. I used to be one of the people who's like, quit talking to me about EEAT. I'm so sick of hearing that. It's like, shut up. It's like, just write good content.
well, it
It's like,
feels like there's a pendulum swing from, 2 years ago, everything was EAT and it doesn't disvalue that. But now with like how some of the LLMs function, you also have a little bit of like this resurgence in like relevancy and kind of like uniqueness to the topic as well. The next question where is going to be crystal ball. Tell me how Google's AI powered search results will evolve over the next 12 months.
crystal ball, I see the AI overviews becoming even a larger zero click environment. I think that Google wants to keep people in their properties It's almost as if they don't want people to click through to sites. And so I see that just becoming larger and more difficult to play in that sandbox. I think Rand Fishkin, I was at SMX East a number of years ago, and Rand Fishkin, I guess he was kind of ahead of the game because he talked about Google and how they were devising ways every single day to find out how to keep people in their properties. And I was floored to learn that Google owns 96% of all search in one way or another. YouTube, images, traditional Google search. So I really believe that the game is going to shift to the visibility to those AI answers. So then it's going to be like, that's where structured data, even though Google's saying structured data is, they've always said structured data is not a ranking signal. I do believe that it's going to become more and more important that our structured data is just spot on and no room for error. And brand authority, I think, is going to be really important too. So when I talk to people at Cole Plummer about our appearing in AI overviews, I was like, it's not entirely a bad thing, even though we've seen a significant drop in click-through rate. It's for brand recognition, it's really good. So our brand game has gone up. And how do we recover from the other one? So I think that brand authority is going to be important, and I just really feel like that's my prediction, is that AI is just going to become bigger and more powerful, and it's going to eat us all, just swallow us up like this big giant Venus flytrap.
Well, last question, and this one's a game plan. So the scenario is you're the SEO director, and with AIO and AI mode rolling out, you're seeing a significant decrease in clicks in parts of your website. You're not seeing that with impressions, but upper management is breathing down your neck and they're asking for answers. How do you respond back to them, and what's your next step?
Oh, I'm actually going through that right now. I think that the most important thing is going to be crawl your site often, benchmark before you make changes. Make sure that you map your URLs if you need to change. Make sure that your site that you pay attention to your site hygiene as much as important. If you launch something new, make sure that you monitor it, put the system in place to make sure that you can keep a good eye on what is it doing, because you might have pivoted and it was not the correct pivot. And so sometimes you need to take a step back. So it's challenging at best, but that would be my game plan, is, if I could call one word, it's like benchmark. And then pay attention to what the SERPs are doing. So pay attention to those AI SERPs, right? Like, what are people talking about? I go in those search engine results, find, because they do give the links now. I go and look at the links and figure out what keywords that those are ranking for and that appear in those searches. So I think benchmarking is important, and that's one of the things I would do, is figure out what my competitors are doing. Why are they outranking us?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but that's my answer.
And that's all that matters. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Voice of Search podcast. Thanks again to Donna Donahue from Atelia Scientific for joining us. If you'd like to contact Donna, you can find a link to her LinkedIn profile in her show notes, or for more information on Atelia Scientific, you can find them at and telia.com. If you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of SEO and content marketing knowledge in your podcast feed, hit that subscribe button on your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed in the following days. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for stopping by, Voice of Search, and we'll see you in the next episode.